Introduction. Anger is a common human reaction to feeling threatened, wronged, or frustrated. Anger is not necessarily bad, but it can have significant repercussions on our mental, emotional, and physical health if it is not managed properly. That's why it's so important for people, especially women, to learn effective strategies for dealing with anger. Historically, women have been taught to repress their emotions for fear of being labeled irrational. When women feel they have to keep their feelings bottled up because of cultural expectations, they might get stuck in a destructive cycle of internalized anger. The effects of this kind of repression can be devastating, ranging from mental and emotional distress to actual physical illness. Gender-based discrimination, injustice, or harassment are just a few of the specific causes for anger that women frequently confront. Unchecked, these feelings of injustice can lead to long-term bitterness. While learning to control their anger, women can develop the strength to face and deal with these strong emotions. Women's lives benefit greatly from anger management since it helps them deal with anger, regain emotional control, and improve their health. In this book, we will delve into all you need to know to manage anger successfully as a woman. Chapter 1. An Introduction to Anger in Women. Anger is an outward manifestation of resentment, injustice, or pain that has been buried deep within us. Anger stems from complex emotional and environmental factors. Anger can be sparked by events outside of oneself, such as arguments, betrayals, or unfulfilled expectations. There are other causes of anger, such as childhood traumas or unhealed emotional traumas. Anger is more likely to surface when we have a pre-existing emotional state of pain or insecurity. But anger can also be a useful defense mechanism in certain situations, helping us stand up for ourselves. Anger is not always a bad feeling. It can give us a burst of vitality and push us to take action to right wrongs. Anger can motivate us to take action, whether it's standing up for ourselves or others, establishing limits, or speaking up for what we believe in. On the other hand, unrestrained anger can lead to negative outcomes. Aggressive behavior, damaged relationships, and other unfavorable outcomes can result from unrestrained anger. Anger is a normal human emotion, but it's crucial to learn how to identify and control it so it doesn't get out of hand. Self-awareness is crucial when it comes to controlling one's anger. Knowing the symptoms and bodily feelings of anger allows us to take control before it gets out of hand. By keeping track of our thoughts, feelings, and responses, we can learn more about the exact situations that set off our anger. Developing positive coping techniques is essential for anger management. We can lessen the intensity of rage and regain composure by engaging in activities that promote relaxation and emotional control, such as deep breathing exercises, meditation, or physical activity. Anger can also be constructively released through the use of artistic outlets, such as writing, painting, or playing an instrument. Keep in mind that not all anger is directed at other people. To better control anger, it can be helpful to examine one's own motivations for feeling that way. Seeking professional help in the form of therapy or counseling can be quite beneficial when trying to uncover the underlying causes of our anger. The ability to forgive and let go is also crucial for anger management. Keeping a grudge or resentment bottled up inside only serves to make us angrier and more miserable. Forgiveness is a powerful tool for emotional health, both for the forgiver and the forgiven. This doesn't imply we should ignore wrongdoing, but it does mean we should work to overcome our wrath and find inner calm and peace. Keep in mind that anger is frequently coupled with other feelings. Anger often masks more complex emotions like sadness, fear, and guilt. When dealing with anger, it's important to identify and process the feelings underneath the surface. Understanding ourselves and the things that make us angry requires first identifying and then working through these feelings. The ways in which women show anger are significantly influenced by cultural norms and societal assumptions. Gender norms have historically placed restrictions on women that prevent or stigmatize them from showing anger. Women have traditionally been portrayed as loving, kind, and accommodating, whereas men have been portrayed as aggressive and uncontrollable. Therefore, women who vent their anger may be met with hostility, criticism, or the label of being too emotional or irrational. The ways in which women experience and display anger are shaped by cultural conditioning as well. Women are often socialized to put the needs of others first, to keep their cool under pressure, and to avoid conflict. For fear of being labeled as disruptive, unfeminine, or violating society ideals, cultural conditioning might cause women to internalize or repress their anger. All these cultural and social pressures on women might make it more difficult for them to express their anger, which can have a severe impact on their mental and emotional health. It is crucial to question and rethink these gendered expectations, encouraging women to find safe and effective methods of expressing and controlling their anger. Female anger can be affected by hormones. Hormones and stress are two of many elements that can contribute to women's anger. A woman's mood and her ability to control her anger might be affected by the natural ebb and flow of her hormone levels as she goes through her monthly menstrual cycle. Some women, for instance, may feel irritable and angry before their periods even start because of fluctuations in estrogen and progesterone levels. Another major issue that can affect women's anger is stress. Stress hormones like cortisol are released when women are under either acute or chronic stress, and these chemicals can alter how they feel. Long-term stress can lower women's tolerance for irritation and impatience, making them more prone to anger. Women's anger may also be influenced by social and cultural norms. Particular difficulties and sexist norms are often a source of aggravation for women. Feelings of resentment and wrath can be triggered by societal pressures such as gender norms, discrimination, and the need to conform. Women's social pressure to keep their anger bottled up can also cause a dangerous buildup of repressed emotions that can explode in rage when it is finally released. Anger in women may also be affected by psychological variables like low self-esteem, past traumas, and problems with interpersonal relationships. Different personality qualities and coping mechanisms might have a bearing on how one experiences anger. The way anger is expressed can be influenced by personality, and some women may have a more aggressive or assertive personality. How women feel and show anger may also be influenced by the quality of their social networks and the interactions they have with others. Women who have positive relationships with others may be better able to deal with anger and find good outlets for it. On the flip side, women who are alone or in abusive relationships may experience extreme, unresolved rage. Chapter 2. Dissecting the roots of anger. Anger can arise for women when they are forced to deal with the repercussions of gender stereotypes and limiting social norms. Some examples of such expectations are adherence to rigid beauty standards or societal norms of conduct based on one's gender. Experiencing sexism or discrimination in any setting, from the job to the classroom to everyday encounters, is upsetting. When women experience discrimination, harassment, or injustice because of their gender, it can make them feel powerless and enraged. Women may experience a buildup of resentment over time as a result of microaggressions, which are subtle or inadvertent statements, actions, or behaviors that transmit implicit biases or preconceptions. These slights can make them feel inferior, whether in terms of their intelligence, their experiences, or their ability. Menstruation, pregnancy, childbirth, and menopause are just some of the reproductive health issues that can make people angry. Feelings of anger and unfairness may be exacerbated by a lack of access to reproductive health care, stigma, or dismissive views towards women's health problems. Experiencing or witnessing acts of violence and abuse, such as those against women, domestic abuse, sexual assault, or harassment, can provoke intense rage. Gender inequality and injustice in many areas of society, including classrooms, workplaces, political arenas, and decision-making forums, may be at the root of women's anger. The convergence of gender with other forms of discrimination, such as racism, ableism, or homophobia, can lead to frustration and resentment from members of marginalized groups, including women. Societal pressure to conform to specific beauty standards and body ideals can have a negative impact on women's sense of self-worth and body image. Anger, irritation, and a feeling of being objectified or devalued can result from constant comparison, criticism, or body shaming. Maintaining a healthy work-life balance is a common struggle for working women. When expectations and demands become unreasonable, or when there is a lack of support and understanding, juggling numerous roles and obligations, such as a career, a family, and domestic tasks, can lead to emotions of overwhelm and resentment. Women may become enraged when they feel their rights, autonomy, or access to basic services have been violated by political policies or laws. Harassment, cyberbullying, and other types of cyber violence against women are all too common on the internet and other forms of social media. And all this can trigger women's anger. Sexual assault and other forms of gender-based violence are major contributors to women's rage. As a result of having their dignity, trust, and sense of safety violated, survivors of this kind of assault may experience intense anger. How to identify and evaluate anger triggers? First, find a quiet place where you may sit and think. Put your focus inward and close your eyes. Let go of whatever worry or anxiety you may be feeling and just relax your mind. Focus on your feelings. Take note of whether or not you're experiencing any rage or irritation right now. Let yourself feel all of these things without judging yourself. Now, consider a recent event that made you feel angry. Think back to the specifics of what provoked your anger, including the individuals and circumstances involved. Think back on the physical and emotional sensations you experienced at the time. Focus on the specific causes of your anger as you investigate the scenario. These may be external, such as the words or acts of another person, or internal, such as your own views or beliefs. Think about the deeper causes of your intense reaction to certain triggers. Is your reaction to particular triggers stronger because of anything in your history or because of unsolved issues? Keep these associations and correlations in mind. The next step is to broaden your perspective and think about other times you felt rage. Try to identify underlying factors or situations that always seem to set you off. This may take the form of a specific criticism, a feeling of disdain, or an awareness of an injustice. Think about what sets you off and what happens when you let that anger out. Think about how this will affect your personal connections, your health, and your overall happiness. Realizing how much trouble unbridled anger may cause will help you deal with it. When you know what sets you off and how to avoid it, you can better manage your anger. For example, you could train your mind to counter negative thought patterns by studying relaxation techniques, assertive communication methods, or cognitive reframing. Communicate openly and honestly with people you trust, including friends, family, or a therapist, and ask for their honest comments. Discuss the things that make you angry and see if they have any thoughts or advice for you. It's possible that other people can shed light on your triggers from an unexpected angle. Engage a helpful friend or family member in role-playing situations that tend to make you angry. Role-play these scenarios and practice your reactions. By practicing this technique, you can learn to control your anger and find productive methods to deal with stressful situations. Keep in mind that the point of these exercises is not to totally rid yourself of anger, but rather to help you become more cognizant of your anger's origins and learn more effective coping mechanisms. Chapter 3. Emotions that makes up anger. Anger can progress along a continuum, from normal anger to bitterness and resentment. Resentment develops when people hold grudges against one another or when arguments have festered for a long time, causing hurt feelings and a breakdown in communication. Seething fury, driven by a profound sense of injustice or betrayal, is the next stage of escalating anger. Physical symptoms of this level of rage include rapid heartbeat, stiff muscles, and a surge of adrenaline. The next level of anger, explosive rage, comes after fury. Persons experiencing this form of anger typically act aggressively, lose control of themselves, and refuse to consider the repercussions of their actions. The intensity of this anger can lead to aggression, vandalism, and even self-harm or harm to others. Anger can take several forms, even within the same person, depending on the circumstances at hand. When angry, some people act it out by being argumentative, hostile, or even physically aggressive. As an outlet for their anger, they may yell, use foul language, or start fights with others. On the other side, some people may bottle up their feelings and never address anyone about their anger. This pent-up rage can manifest itself in passive-aggressive actions, such as sarcasm, subtle insults, or the willful withholding of information or assistance. This type of anger is frequently difficult to identify. Anger is often fleeting. It could pass in a matter of seconds or linger for hours. On the other hand, rage can be chronic and ongoing, building up slowly over time. Not dealing with or resolving unresolved anger can have negative consequences for one's mental and emotional health. It is crucial to investigate the ways in which we vent our rage. Some women may find comfort in openly discussing their needs and setting firm limits when necessary. Some people may prefer more covert methods, such as expressing themselves through art, music, or writing. It is essential to have compassion for oneself while one works through anger. When we accept and work through our anger, we get insight into how to handle difficult emotions with poise and honesty. It may be a driving force in our life, helping us gain insight into who we are and how we want to live. Keeping a diary or journal can also be a helpful method for introspection. The depths of our anger can be explored and its causes and effects better understood when we write freely and without judgment. Writing helps us work through our feelings, see connections, and learn more about who we are as people. Mindfulness practices can also help us recognize and analyze the causes of our anger. Awareness of the present moment allows us to watch our anger as it arises without getting caught up in it. By engaging in this routine, we train ourselves to take a moment, consider our options, and answer thoughtfully rather than reflexively. We must always keep in mind that our anger is not indicative of who we are as people or as women. It's part of the human experience, along with happiness, sadness, love, and everything else that makes us human. When we accept anger as a normal and acceptable emotion, we may learn to work through it without feeling guilty or ashamed. Chapter 4. The biological basis of anger. Several physiological changes take place in a woman's body during an incident of anger. Hormones and neurotransmitters play a role in causing these alterations, which are all part of the body's normal response to stress. Anger can cause a rise in blood pressure and a faster pulse as the body reacts to the perceived danger. The heart rate increases to meet the increased demand for oxygen and nutrients by the working muscles. Anger can also affect the body's respiratory rate. As the body attempts to fulfill the increased demand for oxygen, breathing speeds up and becomes shallower. Hormones like adrenaline and cortisol are secreted by the body as anger builds. Adrenaline triggers the body's fight or flight response, which releases glucose from the liver into the bloodstream. A person's muscles can become tense and ready for action if they are angry. The jaw muscles can tense, the hands can clench, and the whole body can become rigid from stress. These alterations in body composition are an involuntary response to the threat of physical conflict or the need for self-defense. The digestive system can also be negatively impacted by angry outbursts. When the body's blood supply is redirected to the muscles, heart, and brain, it can cause gastrointestinal distress and loss of appetite. The sensation of butterflies or knots in the stomach may also be caused by this change in blood flow. Short-term and long-term consequences on women's health can result from the physiological changes that occur during episodes of anger. The harmful effects of stress on one's cardiovascular system and overall health have been well documented, and they may be exacerbated by frequent or chronic anger. To lessen the physical toll that anger can take, it's crucial to learn effective techniques for controlling and channeling it. The effect on the body's immunological system is notable. Stress hormones, such as cortisol, can lower immune function, leaving people more vulnerable to sickness. This can lower the body's resistance to illness and increase the probability of developing chronic disorders. Stress and anger that last too long might sometimes make it difficult to fall asleep. High anger people often have trouble falling asleep. Cognitive performance, emotional stability, and immune system function can all be negatively impacted by insufficient sleep. There may be a correlation between women's frequent rage and the development of mental health problems. Anxiety and depression can both progress or become worse with persistent anger. The frequent triggering of the body's stress reaction can upset the delicate balance of neurotransmitters in the brain, having negative effects on mood regulation and general psychological health. Anger's physical effects, such as tightened muscles and a faster heartbeat, can also be hard on the heart. Long-term stress on the cardiovascular system can lead to hypertension, heart disease, and other related disorders. It's worth noting that each person's genetics, state of health, and coping techniques might have a unique impact on the physiological responses to anger. Recognizing and dealing with anger outbursts in a healthy and productive way, however, is essential for long-term health and happiness. Women's cognitive performance and their capacity to make sound choices can also be negatively impacted by persistent anger. The prefrontal cortex, which regulates rational thought and impulse control, may be less active when the body is in an angry state. As a result, you may have trouble controlling your impulses and making well-considered choices. When it comes to hormone balance, the physiological changes that occur during angry outbursts might be harmful. Hormones released in response to stress, like as cortisol, have been shown to disrupt the regular menstrual cycle, resulting in painful period abnormalities or even amenorrhea. Long-term, unresolved anger and stress may also have an effect on fertility and reproductive health for women. Anger can also have negative effects on our relationships and careers. Loss of control over one's anger can ruin personal and professional relationships. It can make us less able to understand one another, work together, and resolve disagreements. Frequent outbursts of inappropriate or aggressive anger can damage relationships and make people avoid or stop supporting the angry person. How to deal with manifestations of anger, such as a racing heart and muscle stiffness. It is important to identify methods that work for you to control the physical manifestations of anger. Breathing exercises have the potential to be very effective in reducing stress levels. Fill your lungs with a slow, deep breath in via your nose, and then let it out gradually through your mouth. Meditation can also help. It involves bringing one's attention to the sensation of breathing in and out in order to stabilize one's state of mind in the here and now. Proceed to practicing progressive muscular relaxation. Different sets of muscles are tensed and then relaxed when this is practiced. Relax each set of muscles, starting with your toes and working your way up to your head. Exercising is also another great method to direct and release anger. Get some exercise by walking, jogging, or doing something else active. The endorphins released as a result can make you feel happier and less stressed. Creative pursuits like painting, writing, and playing an instrument can help relieve stress and reduce anger. Chapter 5. Ways and techniques to manage anger. One way to manage anger is to use cognitive restructuring. When we're angry, our minds warp, and we end up believing things that aren't true and feeling stronger feelings than we otherwise would. The goal of cognitive restructuring is to question and alter these thoughts in order to create positive thought patterns. Recognizing our own thought patterns while angry is the first step towards changing them. It entails focusing on and investigating the nature of fleeting mental images as they appear. Some examples of these types of beliefs that can fuel our rage are generalizations and exaggerations. When we become aware of these thought patterns, we can start to master our emotional responses. The next stage, after being aware of destructive thought patterns, is to question and challenge them. To do so, we must examine the data that supports our hypotheses and look for other possible explanations. We can investigate whether or not our presumptions are correct or whether other elements are at play here. Looking at the evidence without bias will help us see things more clearly. Negative thoughts should be replaced with more reasonable and realistic ones in cognitive restructuring. To do this, one must come up with new ideas that are both useful and calming. Reframing entails shifting one's attention from a problem to its solution or the positive features of a circumstance. Changing our thoughts consciously can help us feel less rage and develop a more positive outlook. Cognitive restructuring stresses the value of self-compassion in addition to challenging and reframing our thoughts. It reminds us that anger is a natural part of the human experience and hence calls for self-compassion and acceptance. It takes time and practice for cognitive restructuring to be an effective method for anger management. Consistent effort is required to recognize and reject destructive thought patterns while simultaneously nurturing more constructive ones. With time and effort, cognitive restructuring can help people achieve mastery over their anger, leading to greater emotional stability and more satisfying interpersonal connections. Mindfulness training is also an integral part of cognitive reorganization. Being mindful means paying attention to the here and now without passing judgment on our ideas, emotions, or physiological experiences. Mindfulness training allows us to be with our angry feelings without giving in to them. This allows for introspection, which in turn allows us to respond to anger with greater self-awareness and restraint. Positive affirmations can also help. These affirmations might serve as a reminder of more constructive responses to negative thinking. We could tell ourselves things like, I am in charge of my emotions and choose to respond with patience and understanding, or I can handle this situation calmly and assertively. Questioning and reframing anger-inducing beliefs and assumptions. As women, we deal with a lot of complex feelings, including anger. We can blame our own self-limiting beliefs, the beliefs of others, or the world at large for fueling our anger at times. It's crucial to be aware of such ideas and to work towards challenging and reframing them. This will provide us the tools we need to deal with anger in a positive and productive manner. Spend some time observing your thoughts and making note of any unhelpful repetitions. Think about what causes you to become angry and how you feel when you do. Is your temper caused by a set of core beliefs or ideas? Recognizing these recurring tendencies is the first step in combating them. Recognizing these unhelpful assumptions allows you to challenge them. Evaluate your beliefs by considering if they are supported by evidence or whether they are predicated on assumptions or prior experiences that may not be applicable here. The next step is to train yourself to reframe these limiting beliefs and thoughts. Seek out reinterpretations and new viewpoints that can bring about greater empathy and understanding. It's important to keep in mind that negative ideas and beliefs can be imprinted over a long period of time. Take your time and treat yourself kindly while you challenge and reframe them. Always keep in mind that progress is being made even though it seems slow at the moment. It's important to keep in mind that it takes continual work to challenge and reframe negative attitudes and beliefs. Cultivate an attitude of thankfulness. When frustration or anger develops, try focusing on what you have to be thankful for. This straightforward technique can change your perspective and make you feel better, making it simpler to question and abandon destructive ideas. Think and speak positively about yourself. Substitute positive affirmations and uplifting mental images for destructive inner monologue. Focus on the positive by reminding yourself of your abilities. Negative ideas and beliefs can lead to rage, but they can be overcome by actively building self-compassion and self-belief. How to develop a more optimistic outlook. Acquire a thorough comprehension of your inner processes, including your feelings and actions. Be aware of how you respond to various scenarios so that you can pinpoint any unfavorable tendencies or triggers. Mindfulness is the act of paying attention on purpose without attaching meaning to what you're seeing. Practices like meditation, deep breathing, and mindful walking can help you tune out distractions and concentrate on the here and now. Count your blessings and give thanks on a regular basis. Having a more optimistic outlook can be achieved through practicing gratitude and focusing on the positive. Pay attention to your inner monologue and replace destructive self-talk with affirming ones. Self-compassion entails being gentle and forgiving to oneself. Put yourself in situations and with people who will encourage and uplift you. Your outlook and sense of well-being might benefit greatly by being in the company of upbeat, supportive people. Put resilience into practice by viewing setbacks as instructive obstacles rather than fatal ones. Refrain from concentrating on issues and instead look for ways to overcome obstacles. Make sure your goals are reasonable by breaking them down into more manageable chunks. Acknowledge your successes and accept your failures as necessary steps on the path to success. Take care of your body by maintaining a healthy routine of exercise, a nutritious food, and adequate rest. Mental and emotional health are intrinsically intertwined with physical health. Take part in hobbies and pursuits that interest you. Do things that make you happy and fuel your interests. Spending time on interests might help keep you in a good mood and relieve tension. Take time for yourself to engage in activities that enrich your spirit, body, and mind. Reading, keeping a journal, going on walks, and soaking in the tub are all good examples of this. Chapter 6. Effective communication to reduce anger. Communicating assertively is a key component of good anger management. It is easy to act aggressively or passive-aggressively when we allow our emotions to take over in situations that make us angry. However, using assertive communication allows us to express our emotions and resolve problems in a more positive and civil manner. At its core, assertive communication is about being honest and open about how we feel. By expressing our emotions in a level-headed manner, free of personal attacks or demeaning language, we show respect for ourselves and the other person. This method fosters communication and mutual understanding, which are essential to resolving issues amicably. Appropriate boundaries can be formed and maintained with the aid of good communication. Assertive communication helps people calm down by encouraging them to listen rather than lash out. It teaches us to pay attention to and consider the feelings of others around us. Taking the time to understand the other person's perspective can ease tensions and pave the way to a solution that benefits everyone involved. Validating the feelings and worries of others via attentive listening promotes compassion and teamwork. When we use assertive language, we are able to accept personal responsibility for our thoughts, feelings, and actions. Instead of pointing fingers, we embrace our emotions and find healthy outlets for them. With this newfound insight, we are better able to articulate our needs, ask for help, and take care of ourselves when we feel anger rising. As was already noted, assertive communication can help keep things from heating up between two people. By communicating assertively, we can lessen the likelihood of escalating disagreements through aggressive or passive-aggressive actions. To avoid eliciting a harsh or defensive reaction from others, we should work on expressing ourselves calmly and politely. Communicating in an assertive manner increases one's own sense of worth and confidence. When we speak up for what we want and what we think, we validate ourselves as unique individuals. When we have confidence in ourselves, we are less likely to let the words and deeds of others intimidate or invalidate us, making it easier to control our wrath. When we treat ourselves with dignity, we are better able to handle adversity. Suppressing our anger through passive communication might cause us unhappiness and bitterness on the inside. Conversely, hostile exchanges of words can poison relationships and fuel tensions. Assertive people are able to break free from destructive behaviors and develop more effective means of self-expression, leading to enhanced development and more satisfying relationships. Effective problem-solving and teamwork are additional benefits of using assertive communication style. It helps us shift our focus from simply being angry to actively seeking solutions and common ground. Assuming responsibility for regulating our anger, rather than letting it control us, can be accomplished through the use of assertive communication of our feelings and needs. Feelings of powerlessness and frustration are mitigated by the knowledge that we can take action to effect good change, establish limits, and find acceptable solutions. Misunderstandings can be avoided if people just say what's on their minds without getting angry or passive-aggressive. This makes it easier for others to grasp our point of view, which in turn reduces the potential for misunderstandings and friction in future interactions. Healthy ways to deal with anger and how to avoid acting in a passive-aggressive way. Admit that you're angry. It's okay to be angry sometimes. Realize that anger is a normal human emotion and expressing it is fine. Don't suppress your feelings or ignore your frustration, since that could turn into passive aggression. Before reacting, take a deep breath and step back for some perspective. Put some time between yourself and the triggering event. This will allow you to respond less emotionally and more rationally. Think about what's really going on and try to get to the bottom of what's making you so angry. Is it the result of one occurrence, repeated actions, or unfulfilled needs? If you can get to the bottom of things, you can improve your communication and deal with the real issues at hand. Use I phrases to keep the focus on yourself rather than placing blame on anyone else when expressing anger. Express how you feel and what effect this situation has had on you clearly. Keep the channels of communication open while being strong and respectful. While it's crucial to vent your frustration, it's just as vital that you attentively listen to the other person's side of the argument. Listen to them and make an effort to see things from their perspective. This helps people connect with one another and have meaningful conversations. Avoid concentrating on the source of your anger and instead direct your energy into resolving the issue at hand. Work together to come up with solutions that will work for both of you. In doing so, we break the cycle of anger and get to the root of the problem. Keep your cool during the conversation and try not to let your emotions get the best of you. If you're feeling overwhelmed, step away and come back to the conversation later after you've collected your thoughts. Keep in mind that it takes time and effort to learn how to express anger in a healthy way. Learn how to resolve conflicts peacefully so you can have better relationships and control your temper. Learning how to resolve conflicts can help you build stronger relationships and deal with difficult emotions. Some potential strategies are as follows. Understanding can be gained by active listening, or hearing the other person out without interjecting or formulating a response. It's a sign of deference and a step towards developing empathy. Thinking like the other person helps you empathize with their plight and address their wants, needs, and worries. This can lessen the likelihood of escalating an argument and foster a feeling of mutual understanding. Instead of using accusing language, try utilizing I words to express your emotions and thoughts. By shifting the emphasis from other people to one's own perspective, this method facilitates blame-free dialogue. Be aware of your body language, tone of voice, and facial expressions. These are all forms of nonverbal communication. Conflicts can be escalated or de-escalated based on nonverbal signs. The tension might be eased if you keep your cool and communicate openly. When tensions are high, it's best to take a break from the argument and cool down. Setting a definite time to continue the conversation gives everyone involved a chance to cool down and think things through. Find areas of agreement or shared interests to build upon. By recognizing shared objectives, the focus can be shifted from a zero-sum game to a cooperative effort to find solutions. Be open to reaching a middle ground and negotiating for a solution that works for both parties. It's important to prioritize your own mental and physical health by engaging in self-care. Reducing stress through activities like exercise, meditation, or hobbies can help with anger management and overall relationship health. Spend some time thinking about your typical behavior patterns and the things that tend to set you off and make you angry. Increasing your awareness of yourself can help you handle your feelings and resolve problems more skillfully. Keep in mind that disagreements are inevitable in every close relationship, and learning to deal with them constructively takes time and effort. Better relationships and control over anger triggers can be achieved via open dialogue, empathy, and a search for common ground. Chapter 7. Developing emotional stability. It's important to remember that anger is a multifaceted emotion that frequently coexists with other feelings like stress, fear, and depression. If our needs or wants aren't met, for instance, we may experience stress, and that frustration may quickly turn into anger. Anger can also stem from fear. Humans have an innate response of dread when we feel threatened or perceive danger to ourselves or those we care about. Fear can turn into anger as a means of asserting control or protecting oneself if one feels helpless. Anger can be a defense mechanism, giving us the strength to face our fears. Anger and depression often go hand in hand. Depression is a common reaction to painful life events like loss or disappointment. However, resentment isn't always far below the surface of depression. Our anger could be directed towards the events or people we hold responsible for suffering, or it could be directed inward, at ourselves. While these other feelings may be associated with anger, it is crucial to remember that anger is not the same as these. The unique characteristics and manifestations of anger vary from person to person and from circumstance to circumstance. Recognizing the ties between anger and these feelings might help us take better care of our emotional selves. We can better understand and address the sources of our anger if we can name the range of feelings that go into it. Through increased self-awareness, we can develop more effective means of dealing with adversity and responding more maturely to life's challenges. Anger's links to other feelings also extend to the mutual influences and interactions between them. The negative effects of frustration, fear, and grief can be compounded by the presence of anger. For instance, if we are already feeling dissatisfied and anger emerges, it can increase our irritability and impatience, which could result in more aggressive or impulsive actions. Similarly, anger can be fueled by fear, producing a powerful emotional cocktail that can lead us to take actions we otherwise would not. Anger can be a productive outlet for the fear-induced fight or flight response, which otherwise might lead us to avoid or flee from the perceived threat. People often resort to aggressive behavior or other displays of hostility when they feel threatened, which is a manifestation of the fear and fury that fuels these reactions. Feelings of rage often accompany the depression that comes from experiencing a great loss or disappointment if the person feels that they have been treated unfairly. As we try to make sense of and react to the pain we are feeling, these conflicting feelings can surface as resentment, bitterness, or a desire for retaliation. Every feeling has its own distinct characteristics, triggers, and root causes. We may improve our self-awareness, emotional intelligence, and response management skills by learning to recognize the unique qualities of anger and the other emotions it interacts with. How to build emotional fortitude and better handle stressful situations. Building up one's emotional fortitude and adopting more beneficial coping strategies is an ongoing process that can significantly improve one's quality of life. Here are some ways to strengthen your emotional fortitude. Improve your self-awareness by paying closer attention to your inner experience. Mindfulness entails paying non-judgmental attention to one's internal experiences. With this kind of introspection, you may zero in on the causes and recurring themes that drive your emotional reactions. Create a safety net of people who have your back and will be there to listen and cheer you on when the going gets tough. Talk to someone you can trust about how you're feeling and what's happened to you. Put your own physical, mental, and emotional health first by making self-care a priority in your life. Get some exercise, take up a hobby, spend some time in nature, or learn to relax with some deep breathing exercises or some meditation. Encourage healthy coping by investigating and honing techniques that have been effective in the past. Writing in a journal, pursuing other artistic pursuits, consulting a therapist, or doing yoga are all examples of such activities. Don't turn to alcohol or drug misuse or avoidance as a means of coping. Negative thoughts can be reframed by challenging them and replacing them with more optimistic or realistic ones. Train your brain to think in new ways. Reduce complex issues to their component parts and consider other approaches. Before making a decision, think about the benefits and drawbacks. Do things that help you become more resilient, like setting goals you can actually achieve, enjoying your successes no matter how tiny, welcoming change, and learning from your mistakes. Consider challenges to be learning experiences. Make learning to control your feelings and emotions a top priority. Recognizing and accepting your emotions, finding constructive ways to express them, such as through conversation, writing, or exercise, and learning to relax in the face of stress are all steps in this direction. Foster a mindset that is open to change by practicing flexibility. Realize that you can easily adapt to new circumstances and explore new options in life. When dealing with anger, it might be good to seek the assistance of others. Sharing our experiences and emotions, whether with a close friend, in a support group, or with a trained expert, can help us feel understood, get direction, and gain perspective. Chapter 8. Managing anger as a parent. The stress and strain that come with becoming a parent can make it difficult to control anger. When dealing with their child's behavior, parents may often have trouble controlling their own feelings. The unpredictable behavior of children, including their testing of limits and prodding of buttons, can lead to frustration and even wrath in adults. Parental stress and dissatisfaction might be exacerbated by society's judgments and expectations. A common misconception is that parents should never lose their cool. When parents are already struggling to control their anger, this might make things worse by making them feel even worse about themselves. Self-awareness and self-control are equally crucial parenting skills. Knowing your own anger triggers and patterns, and being able to identify the feelings that lie beneath your anger is essential for parents. This kind of introspection and awareness of one's feelings can be difficult for parents, especially in the heat of an argument. In addition to introspection, good communication skills are essential for parental anger management. Negative feelings between parents and children can be avoided if both parties learn to express their emotions openly and constructively. Another challenge for parents is making time for self-care and stress reduction. Parents should make time for their own emotional and physical health. However, it can be challenging for parents to prioritize self-care activities because of the many responsibilities they have. Children who are exposed to a lot of anger as they develop may come to have low opinions of themselves. As kids internalize their parents' patterns of behavior, they may acquire low self-esteem, anxiety, or even aggressive behavior. Unrestrained rage can put a strain on parent-child relationships, weakening both trust and closeness. Parents can take the first step towards overcoming these obstacles by learning how to care for themselves and deal with stress. Some of the tension and frustration that lead to anger can be reduced by taking time for oneself, doing things that offer joy and relaxation, and reaching out for support from one's partner, family, or friends. Managing anger successfully requires the development of suitable coping strategies. Taking a moment to collect oneself before reacting to a stressful situation is one tactic. Parents can keep a level head when coping with their children's problematic behaviors by engaging in positive self-talk and reframing negative thoughts. It can be helpful to learn and use constructive forms of discipline as well. Parents may encourage excellent behavior in their children by setting clear limits and expectations, and then rewarding them when they comply. Parents can foster an atmosphere conducive to open communication and problem solving by instructing their children in healthy ways to deal with their own feelings. Parents who are having difficulty controlling their anger may benefit from seeking professional treatment through therapy or counseling. A therapist can help parents figure out where their anger is coming from and provide them the tools they need to deal with it moving forward. It's important to keep in mind that learning to control your anger as a parent is a continual process that takes patience, self-compassion, and a growth mindset. Keep in mind that you are human and that the most important thing is making an effort to learn from your mistakes and provide a safe, loving home for your child. There are a number of helpful guidelines to follow if you want to set a good example for your children in terms of how to deal with anger. Leading by example should always be your first priority. Children are excellent observers, so setting a good example by dealing with your own anger constructively will have a long-lasting effect. Talk things out in a safe and dignified way. Encourage your youngster to share how they're feeling. Instruct children on the usage of I statements as a means of describing their feelings without assigning blame. Help them articulate their feelings by encouraging them to share what's bothering them. If you notice your child's temper beginning to flare, remind them of the significance of taking a deep breath and counting to 10 before reacting. This easy method can give children a moment to think before acting, which can help them control their temper. Assist your kid in figuring out what sets off negative emotions in them. They can talk about the things that set them off and figure out how to deal with them better. Get them to consider how they could react differently to difficult situations. Promote exercise as a healthy outlet for negative emotions. Encourage your child to participate in activities like athletics, dance, or martial arts that will help him or her learn to manage anger in a healthy way. Teach your kid to think independently by having them practice solving problems. Assist them in realizing that anger may be managed without resorting to violence or arguments. Share with your kid the importance of understanding others' feelings and viewpoints. Get children to put themselves in the shoes of those around them so they can learn empathy and compassion. Make your home a place of peace and comfort. Strong relationships are built on trust, open dialogue, and consideration for one another's emotional needs. Set firm limits and enforce consistent penalties for disruptive or aggressive behavior while continually rewarding appropriate actions. Use role-playing to instruct on how to solve issues. Take part in role-playing games with your child, in which both of you take on a character and act out situations that can cause rage. Help them brainstorm creative ways to address problems and reach amicable agreements. Support the expression of feelings through artistic means. Give your child a way to channel negative emotions into something constructive, like painting, writing, or a journal. This could provide a positive means for them to express their feelings. To better manage their rage, help your child develop a habit or ritual they can perform when they feel helpless. This could be anything from deep breathing exercises to listening to soothing music to indulging in one's preferred pastime. Don't act violently or aggressively towards others. Watch how you react to irritation or anger, and make sure you don't go violent or confrontational. Children learn by watching. Therefore, it's important to act in ways that they can emulate. Instruct your child to think about how a situation will affect others. Encourage them to see that violence is never the answer, and that choosing peaceful means to resolve conflicts is always preferable. Tell your kid it's normal to be angry sometimes, but stress the significance of controlling and expressing that anger constructively. They can learn to manage their anger more effectively if their feelings are acknowledged and accepted. Consider consulting a mental health expert if your kid has persistent problems controlling his or her rage despite your best attempts. They can help your child in ways that are unique to his or her situation. Consistency, patience, and open communication are the cornerstones of an effective anger management training programmer. Your ability To be a loving and accepting parent will go a long way towards equipping your child with healthy coping mechanisms for dealing with negative emotions. How to keep your family in order and resolve arguments peacefully. Communication is the first and most important factor. Foster an atmosphere of openness and honesty for discussion among family members. Make it so that everyone may freely share their ideas, emotions, and concerns without fear of repercussions. Without passing judgment or interrupting, you must actively listen to each member of the family to truly comprehend their thoughts and feelings. Define your limits and your expectations. Put in place a system of rules and punishments that is both consistent and just. If you want everyone to feel like they own and understand these rules, have them help create them. Follow your own lead. Kids pick up valuable life lessons by watching their parents in action. In your contacts with others, be an example of kindness, sensitivity, and consideration. Your children will learn invaluable skills in dispute resolution from watching you exercise self-control and control your emotions. Facilitate a process of problem identification, idea generation, and option evaluation rather than imposing your own solutions. This method encourages analytical thinking, open dialogue, and compassion. Assist members of the family in understanding one another's points of view. Teaching empathy will foster compassion and decrease conflicts. Encourage it by asking questions like, how do you think your sibling felt when you took their toy? Or, what could you do to make amends? Set aside some time for everything to cool down. Conflicts often benefit from a brief respite when emotions are running high. Get everyone in the family to take a breather and regroup before returning to the problem. This method helps people avoid acting rashly in disagreement and instead think things through rationally. Hold regular family gatherings. These get-togethers serve as a hub for people to share ideas and work together freely. Make it a point to hear everyone's opinions and sentiments in the family. Put your heads together, make some decisions, and instill some family values. Reinforce good behavior with praise. Recognize and reward good behavior and hard work among family members. Motivate yourself and others by celebrating even the smallest of victories. Family members' positive activities are more likely to be repeated, and their negative actions are less likely to be repeated when positive reinforcement is used. When it comes to family discipline and resolving conflicts, consider the following methods. Instill in your kids the value of compromise and looking for mutually beneficial outcomes. Stress the importance of identifying shared goals and working together to develop strategies that satisfy all parties involved in a disagreement. Instill in them an understanding of the value of forgiving one another and letting go of resentment. Foster an atmosphere where people feel comfortable apologizing and accepting apologies from others. Insist that moving past hurts and making amends is possible via forgiving one another. Let everyone in the family learn from the consequences of their behavior. Let them deal with the reasonable repercussions of their actions instead of intervening right away. This method aids in the formation of a sense of accountability and understanding of the consequences of one's actions. Get them to see that their actions have positive and bad results. When arguments develop, it's important to stress introspection and taking responsibility. This helps them become more self-aware and accountable. Organize events that will bring the family closer together and help strengthen bonds. Participate in activities, trips, or game evenings together. Family members are more likely to get along and support one another if they feel close to one another. Role-playing is a great way to help students learn to solve problems. Participate in role-playing activities with your loved ones to hone your communication, negotiating, and problem-solving skills. This practical method lets them hone their abilities in a supervised setting. Keep in mind that a healthy and loving family dynamic is essential for effective discipline and dispute resolution. A pleasant environment where disagreements are addressed with understanding and respect can be fostered by applying these tactics and tailoring them to your family's needs.